So how do you approach ACT reading if you're a slow reader? I know it can be hard, and the ACT reading as well as the science are both a very, very tough time crunch. But if you use a couple strategies and consider your options when it comes to how you approach ACT reading exams, you can improve your score by a lot, like I did by 15 points. Let's discuss how you can do it too in this video. Before we get into the video, I wanted to let you guys know that our 3 steps to master the ACT course is now $50 off for Thanksgiving week. In a nutshell, this course is the same study approach that I use to improve my ACT score by 12 points overall and up to 15 points in multiple sections. I want to share with you guys exactly what I did, as well as 60 plus strategies that I used, plus one-on-one tutoring sessions that you guys can have with me, and the 5-week daily study regimen that can get you the results that you're looking for fast. You can check it out in the link in the description below, and I'm sure you're going to love it. Alright, back to ACT reading for slow readers. Here's what we'll talk about. There's 2 main approaches you can follow for approaching ACT reading passages and reading them as fast as possible, maximizing your understanding, and then going on to the questions. How exactly you read those is what we'll talk about, and there's 2 approaches for that, like I said. The first one is the one that I highly recommend you follow. It is a bit challenging to develop and learn, especially if you're a slow reader, but with a lot of practice, you can master it and effectively use it to answer questions properly. The second approach is a bit easier to use and takes less time to practice and develop, but also has a lower potential for score improvement. So let's start with the first one. What is it and what does it mean? The first approach is passage glancing. I've talked about this a number of times before on this channel, but basically what you're doing is you're looking at the entire passage. You're just looking at it. You're not taking in all the details, you're not taking in all the information. You're just looking at it, looking for where the main ideas in the passage are located, and annotating them wherever you see them. In addition, you're also looking for 3 main things in the passage that most of the questions will be asking you about. The first is relationships, second is emotions, third is events. These 3 things are what most ACT reading questions, almost all of them, will be asking you about. So if you know them, if you look out for them, and if you just know them in a very basic extent, after your passage glancing, after your skimming, then that'll help you answer the questions and know where to look back for when you're asked about a specific detail or some information that you might not necessarily have known to the greatest extent possible your first time passage glancing. So the basic strategy is look through the entire passage. Don't take it all in because there's too many details and a lot of them will not be asked about. So you're just looking, understanding the passage's organization, and you're looking for those 3 things that I talked about. That's passage glancing in a nutshell. Now, why do I recommend this approach so much? Well, it's because firstly, it takes just about 1 or 2 minutes, up to 3 minutes, to simply passage glance through the entire passage. So it saves you a lot of time. Secondly, you're not wasting time trying to understand too many details, because obviously every ACT reading passage has tons of details, and only a select few of them are asked about in the questions. So what you're doing when you use this approach is you're focusing on the 3 main details that are asked about the most, and the rest of them you're kind of just glancing through. You're not necessarily taking in all the information, wasting time taking in so much information that a lot of which won't even be asked about. So all you're doing is getting a basic gist and understanding the most important variables. And these 3 things that I talked about are the most important informations that are asked about. So focusing on the main things is going to help you be a more efficient reader and also give you more time. Those are the 2 main benefits. Now, that being said, it is a bit tough to apply this approach if you're a slow reader because it takes practice to speed up your comprehension. But with practice, if you take 10 to 15 practice exams over the course of your prep, which is what I did, you can definitely pick up speed and get the score that you're looking for. I promise it works, but it takes effective practice and looking back at your practice exams to see how you messed up and how you could have passage glanced and also answered questions to a better extent. Now, that's the first approach. What is the second one and what does it mean? Now, the second one is an alternative. It's not what I recommend, but it's something that you can try if you're having a really hard time or if you're on a time crunch when it comes to getting your reading score up by a little bit and, going on to applying to colleges or whatever. So the second approach is just the simple reading in depth approach, but with a twist. So what you do is you'll split up the time, the 35 minutes, into, let's say, as opposed to evenly distributing by 8.75 minutes each, you'll distribute it about 9 or 10 minutes for the 3 passage types that you are the best at. So let's say you're really good at the last 3. So on those 3, you'll take about 9 or 10 minutes. Let's say you're taking 10 minutes. And then on the one that you are usually weakest on, which in my case would be the first one, you'll take 5 minutes to just skim through it and just simply almost guess on all the questions. So what this does is it helps you, you have more time on the 3 passages because you can read in depth, take more time out to read slowly if that's what you want to do, and then answer the questions more effectively to the extent that you believe is fit. And the last one, which is the one that you kind of already feel indifferent towards, that one you kind of just throw under the rug and you guess on. And statistically, if you follow this procedure, you can get about a 26 or a 27 if you answer about 80% of the questions correctly on the passages that you are doing well on, and you get about 50% or 25 to 50% correct on the passages that you are struggling with. So if that's a score that you're totally happy with, then you can practice this approach and go for that. But if you want to improve and get into the 30 plus, you kind of have to use the passage glancing, because I mean, unless you're able to read in depth really fast and do it in 2 to 3 minutes, then the passage glancing is probably going to help you the most. Now you can try reading in depth in 2 to 3 minutes, but again, you're going to be taking a lot of time to understand details, and you're going to take your mental capacity to understand details that are not going to be asked about. So I'd say my best advice is understand where the main ideas are located in the passage, understand those 3 things that are very important, and move on from there. Whether or not you choose to read in depth while you're passage glancing or just simply read in depth in general, that's up to you. But I'm saying the approach that I have seen work best for me and for the students that I've tutored is passage glancing, and using the approach of trying to read in less than 2 minutes or passage glance in less than 2 minutes and going from there. So at this point, you kind of have 2 options. Either you try and you stick it through with the passive glancing approach, you practice it, you keep practicing it. It'll take time and it'll take a lot of effort, but if you put the work in, then you can definitely get a lot of improvement. And the second option is just simply stick to the reading in depth approach. It takes less time to develop, but like I said, you also have a bit of a ceiling when it comes to how much you can improve. Choose what works best for you. I'm not going to say that passive glancing is going to work best for everyone, but I have seen that bring the most results for students that have been able to put in the time and the effort. Also, if you're passage glancing, you can kind of think of it as a game. When you approach an ACT reading passage, think to yourself, how fast can I get through this passage while understanding as much as possible in the least amount of time? I think incentivizing that process for yourself in that way can help you further develop your passage glancing approach and improve more so. That's how I approached it, and it helped me a lot when it came to developing my skimming approach and improving my overall ACT reading score. So with that, I'll leave you guys to choose what works best for you. I don't know, again, what works best for you and where you currently stand with your reading exam and timing and college apps, but this is just me laying out the 2 best options that I see, and I'll leave it up to you guys. So with that, again, if you guys need free ACT prep resources such as practice exams, official exams, and if you want to schedule a free tutoring session with me, have a conversation, we'll talk about college apps, we can talk about ACT prep, strategies, things that you're struggling with, whatever, feel free to hit the links in the description below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.